All right, then, of course, so we continue with our analysis this morning with regards to the events that took place right here at Nasrec. It's the ANC's 55th National Elective Conference. So much happened yesterday.
Well, when it eventually got underway. I suppose that's the issue, isn't it? TK Pooe, political analyst. It's so good to have you with us, TK. It's always lovely to have you with us here at Nasrec as well. And can I ask this question? Are we surprised we ran late? I personally wasn't, but I wasn't thinking this much of a delay.
Not really. Look, I think we said this yesterday. The issue of not having a permanent Secretary General, a permanent deputy, and other functionaries does eventually impact the organization. I think, I think it is a mammoth task to run the conference, but it's something you've got 5 years to plan for. But in those 5 years, you kind of need to have the right institutions in place. And you're right in saying we should not have been surprised, because this was going to be the eventual outflow. But I mean, 7 hours to 8 hours, that is it's a bit shocking even for the ANC.
But when it eventually did get underway, I mean, what was your highlight from what Party President Cyril Ramaphosa had to say? Any at all?
Highlight? Well, probably towards the end. He said something which the ANC always says, but I think maybe kind of started to make a bit more sense, the Let's Say My campaign, where it's almost like saying we're going back to people to try to explain things. Now, whether people know the explanations, I think South Africans are a bit tired of the explanations. They want the solutions, but it's something at least which seems to be, they're getting the idea that, look, if we don't really go back to the masses or go back to the public, we're going to be out of power. But the issue is that you can't keep saying go back with as many promises. I know it's December and it's the season of giving, but South Africans really want the load shedding to stop, the economy to run. So those are the things they want. So I think for me, that's probably it that really stood out from the speech.
The entire report.
So it is the season of giving. If Santa were to give the ANC a gift, apart from new watches to keep an eye on their time, apart from that, what would the gift be to the ANC if to fix their problems, to be more organized, to come out of this fairly unscathed? What would that look like?
Well, an acknowledgement that they're not a modern party. You know, I think is at the AAA, one of the first truths is that you have to admit that you are failing and that you are in that situation. And the ANC always gives a pretense of being a modern political party, which they are not. And I think that would probably be the big truth I could give. And when you have that acknowledgement that, look, we're not a modern political party, then the next step comes through, which is to say, look, how do we modernize? And one of the things that is a bit shocking, that do you still require at this, this 21st century, people to come here and say, listen, we're here simply to vote? The voting can actually be done by using a lot of cloud technology, and you can actually do it more openly. So that's the first thing. And secondly, look, the organizational report, it was clunky, to truth be told. It sounded more like a SONA Part 2 than an actual organizational report. It didn't touch on where's the ANC struggling, what's the vision for the ANC going forward. And I think he could have probably done it in 20 minutes had he simply said, look, let's actually give you guys an hour before, like they do with Sona, give it to you while he's speaking and say, look, I'm just going to touch on a few points. And I think that's what the gift that the ANC could really get from Santa, the gift of modernization.
When we spoke to, various people yesterday, I think one issue that came out here, I'm sure you'd agree, was transparency and accountability, and opportunity for the ANC to actually self-reflect. Did you see that in yesterday's, presentations by Party President Cyril Ramaphosa? Was there honesty in saying we do have deep-rooted issues that we need to address? We have a non-existing moral compass almost, because there seems to be no confidence whatsoever in our leaders, or at least the scope of leaders that we have, and this is what we need to do. Do we hear enough about Phala Phala? Do we hear enough about some of the issues that we really want to hear about in terms of load shedding and way forward?
Well, look, it's the issue of the ANC. Look, I have to give credit to the ANC for this. See, when if you go through the conference reports, especially the 53rd and the 54th, the ANC is one of the few political parties that's very honest about its short failings. So, I mean, I remember the report from the former Secretary General, Gweno Mantashe. He touched on the fact that, look, branches are collapsing, where people are making up fictitious branches as they go along. So the issue of the ANC being honest is not the problem. The issue is, now that if you know you have a problem, why don't you address it? Because we're talking about, what, 53rd, we're talking 10 years now of you saying the same thing. We've had ESCOM for the last, I think, 2007, 2009, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a new thing. So the issue of you saying, look, these are our problems, we all know your problems. That's not the issue. What we're looking for is to say, show us direction. And this is where I'm very critical of the report. To say, listen, President, why did you not quantify it? To say, listen, in the 53rd and the 54th, we said we were going to do X. We failed based on this percentage. We did better on that. In the absence of that, you're simply repeating what you do every conference, and we go to an elective conference, and then people start to criticize and say, it seems as though your focus is on elections and not policy and not the rest of the republic.
I think many people would agree. All you have to do is Google hashtag ANC55 and take a look at the headlines.
Yeah.
And it could be a policy conference. It could also be the local government elections from a couple of years ago as well. Just for the moment, we're going to have TK with us throughout the morning. I have to ask, politics is mostly about the look. It's mostly about the image. It's mostly about the optics. Talk to me what your thoughts are on about the timing of the former president walking in as the current president of the ANC is making a speech. Was that just a coincidence, or do you think there could have been a bit more to that?
I think the saying normally goes, he or she that comes last is the one that says, I'm the show. Basically, he was saying, I am the show, because he came in with a dramatic affair. And, it just never comes in silently. So I think it was purposeful, and it was also a show of power to say, I'm still here. You can't forget about me.
No, and the behavior of the branch members after that, I mean, we saw also KZN chairperson having to reprimand some of the delegates. Is that politics? Is that how you actually voice out, your issues? Or could there have been another way for them, of course, to raise their grievances during Ramaphosa's address?
I think this is ANC politics, which has really gone into... Look, it's quite disrespectful. I say this. You don't have to love the person standing in front of you, but you do need to give them, give that office some respect. So the question of, like you're saying, could you not have dealt with this in KZN at your conference? Could you not have dealt with this at the policy conference? Why do you have to, in front of an international audience, heckle not only the president of your party, but of the country? So really, it just shows you the decline of basically the ANC in understanding the optics, as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, security had to be called to come to the stage, to come to the fore. We saw some of the volunteers, doing a chain of humans. They're trying to lead them away from the front of the stage. It could have gone out of hand.
I don't think it would have gotten quite violent. I think you'd have to be very brave to attack Mr. Guadamantashe. Let's just start with that. And you have to be quite brave to do that all by yourself, never mind 100 of you. So I think I wasn't going to get this. So, but the issue of security was a bit, it's a bit odd, because aren't you all part of one party? Do you not all sing from the same hymn sheet? I know it's a broad church. So for me, that was quite problematic, that do you not all come from one party? And like I said, you don't have to like the individual presenting. But at least, like you said, you're going to have a lot of breakaway sessions where you can really voice these issues. And I think the last thing, you can vote the person out, really, if you're that displeased.
Well, this is what the president was saying during his address, is that there are ways to handle these sorts of disagreements in a respectful manner as well. It's odd, isn't it? Because I'm sure many of you joining us this morning may or may not have seen the video going around on social media of Ramaphosa, or President Ramaphosa, and former President Jacob Zuma exchanging pleasantries. A bit of handshaking, a little bit of hugging yesterday before the conference started as well. Now, this is off the back, of course, TK, of the personal criminal charges being laid against President Ramaphosa by President Zuma, former President Zuma as well. So again, is this optics? Is this a positioning for President Zuma?
It was a day of reconciliation, I think.
It was a day of
reconciliation. That's what I think.
But was it authentic, or was it because there were cameras there?
It kind of reminds me of the issue of the whole Kaiser Chiefs on Paris thing in the 90s, where we, the fans, were very, used to get very impassionate. We used to get very angry at our dads and moms if they didn't support the team we like. While Mr. Kazim Taung and Mr. Ivan Khoza in the background got along quite well.
Best friends.
So it's almost like a House of Cards type of situation where, and this is quite the problematic thing with politics, that it's always the grass that believes, oh no, look, my person wants me to stand up, be prickly there. In truth, these guys all get along. They're a political elite. You'd be very surprised how many even opposition parties and ANC leadership, their kids go to the same school, they all drink from the same Kool-Aid. So it's only sometimes people who don't understand this that get very surprised. This is quite normal, really.
Yeah. Also, the issue around registration, I mean, I'm sure you saw those were some of the contributing factors to the lateness when it came to the program. Let's talk about that impact. Some people say they had to sleep outside, they had to wait logistically for you. How do you foresee also conference running forward?
I find it quite interesting, because it's almost like a dichotomy of the rest of the Republic of South Africa. I'm very sure those ANC members that are very well-to-do did not have to go through that. But people who, and this is always my issue with the ANC, that a lot of their volunteers are really rank-and-file average citizens of South Africa who really love the country and love the party. But the party never seems to really give it back to them. And how this goes forward, it's going to be quite interesting. Could you resolve the 7-hour problem you had today? I'm not too sure, because this is something...
And to make up 7 hours is quite something. It's
Yeah.
a full workday, basically.
Yeah, it is, and it's also going to basically impact the quality of the discussions
Absolutely, yeah.
going forward. Meaning, when we discuss the
Yeah.
economy, who really, if you did not sleep, and now they start going over the mining, and they start going over complicated things, for you, just like, look, when we're getting to the vote, I'm here to vote, I want to go eat.
That's it.
And that really just, it almost dumbs down what the end outcome is going to be.